welcome everyone to Departures, and welcome to the past, present and future. I'm Richard Hartnell, I'm an experiential designer, and I'm going to talk to you today about our plans. First, I'd like to introduce my colleagues, Belinda and Richard. Okay, I promised you I'd take you on a holiday to some exotic holiday destination, but before I can do that, I'm going to be talking about the past. For those of you who know nothing about our work, I started building an installation called Onboard Jurassic Airlines in 2011 in response to a call for an arts program for the Jurassic Coast Earth Festival. As an experiential designer working in interactive issue communication, I'd worked extensively with climate change issues for WWF, local authorities and Merlin Entertainment, so knew a lot about these issues, and being frustrated by the lack of government action, wanted to include this aspect in my story. One of the first things I did was to take my prototype along to the UK party conferences as a campaign to raise awareness that helped with the funding. This is how the BBC reported it.
It's a flight of imagination, a chance for delegates at the Labour Party conference to see Dorset's World Heritage coastline.
If you look out now, you can see evidence of those desert sands from Pangaea embedded in the cliffs below us.
It's a remarkable escape from the conference whirl.
It really does feel like you're in an aircraft that's taking off. These are genuine aircraft seats, and up above, the lights work, and even the air vents in the final product will give you smells of the Jurassic Coast.
All this from a plywood box on an exhibition stand. But the man behind it has been coming to party conferences for 20 years, designing stands for other people, like this award-winning mock haberdasher's shop for the RNIB. It's different when you do it for yourself, though.
This is the first project of my own, trying to launch a kind of new career, if you like, in art.
Does it feel different, actually trying to sell your own thing?
It's a lot harder, actually.
Lord Jim Knight had a go in the simulator and backed Richard's campaign to put one on Weymouth seafront in 2012.
Hopefully this will be all up and running in time for that as part of the Cultural Olympiad, and I think we'll see some other things as well that just celebrate our whole heritage, including our natural heritage going back all of those millions of years.
The Jurassic Airline, teaching about the environment without even leaving the ground.
Other World Heritage sites.
So, the following spring, with a team of supporters and a boatload of funding from the Arts Council and many others, we got things moving. We built this pop-up airport at Lyme Regis, much to the amusement of local people, ready for the Jurassic Coast Earth Festival. We were absolutely inundated with passengers. With the support of Lyme Regis Development Trust and Dorset County Council, this was our installation at Weymouth for the 2012 Cultural Olympiad. It worked like this. People were issued boarding passes. They then checked in, and we'd ask people the usual questions about what they had in their baggage. When we asked people whether they were carrying fossil fuels, you'd be surprised how many said no, despite them wearing plastic sunglasses or beach shoes. But they didn't have to remove these, they were just cautioned before going into our Humiliatron biometric scanning area, as I show you here.
We seem all clear. Okay. I think we'll let you pass. Thank you very much, sir.
And we checked in, and a lady gave us a nice talk about things that we could take, things we couldn't take, and things that we shouldn't bring back. And then we proceeded through, and we did a full body scan of each of us.
Good, let's just see what we've got.
And then they'd enter the departures lounge where they could check their flight status. And every now and then they'd see a live breaking news report from the Triassic boundary of mass extinction.
The eruptions are sending up so much dust, ash and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, it's causing catastrophic climate change. This is Dan Mazowick reporting from the Triassic-Jurassic boundary for Jurassic Coast News.
And we'd also give them a quick...
Between Exmouth in East Devon and Studland Bay in Dorset, the cliffs contain a record of 250 million years of the Earth's ancient history, through the Triassic, Jurassic and Cretaceous periods of geological time. Nowhere else in the world is it possible to walk or indeed fly through this part of the geological record in a virtually unbroken sequence. The reason for this extraordinary geodiversity is simple. These are sedimentary rocks laid down layer upon layer over millions of years. About 100 million years ago, Earth movements tilted the rocks down in the east, but just like a seesaw, in the west they rose up and were eroded away. Then the sea returned, depositing Cretaceous-aged sandstone and chalk over the top. And it's this sandwich of rocks that has been eroded into the coast that we see today.
So then people got the call to the gate, and we boarded the passengers and gave them a safety briefing using film and props like this life vest. This was a spiral map of all life on Earth and an escape route back to the present for anyone accidentally stranded in the past.
London in 1666, when Sir Christopher Wren chose the stone to rebuild St Paul's Cathedral.
We were a bit scared before we went on, not quite sure what to expect, but forced ourselves on and had a really good time.
And we leave Earth.
I was expecting us to just go back in time and just have a look of what it would have been like. Not actually, they come up close to our windows.
It's coming in again.
Oh, I learned that like there was a period of time where the continents split apart and like sea levels rose, but then suddenly the sea levels dropped again.
Because this is sort of like a time travel thing. If you look into the future, we might not have any trees left, or we might have one tree.
I've just seen something that, to my mind, was quite phenomenal. I mean, it was very, very well done. The movement of the aircraft, the way the images passed in front of you and around the side of you were absolutely excellent.
Oh, that dinosaur came, and then...
and then the poor captain had to go.
The captain almost got it.
Right. But ladies and gentlemen, that's a baryonyx. The captain should be fine. He's a very athletic man.
So that hopefully gives you a bit of a flavour of how the whole thing worked. I'm now going to hand over to Richard Edmonds, who will tell you why the Jurassic Coast is the best place in the world to tell our story about climate and environmental change.
Well, thank you, Richard. So I first got involved when I got a phone call from Richard, the other Richard Hartnell, saying, I've got this idea for a flight simulator. And I thought, oh, another crazy nutter. But just as you saw, he had actually built this aircraft and had it working. And one look at that, and it was like, kind of, you know what, this could really work. And what you've just seen on board basically takes the simpler story of the Jurassic Coast, the fact that it contains a virtually complete record through the Triassic. Richard, have the next slide. Yeah, the red Triassic rocks of East Devon, which are 250 million years old, into the Jurassic, which starts at Lyme Regis here at Pinhay Bay, and through to Purbeck, where we have the Cretaceous period. So the best place in the world to walk through 185 million years of the Earth's ancient history. And we had a lot of fun. Obviously, on board initially appeared to be a flight along the coast, a virtual flight simulation, but it was more than that, because of course it was also, as the little young lad identified, a flight through time as well, through the Triassic, the Jurassic and the Cretaceous. So we flew over Triassic deserts, we crashed into the Jurassic Sea, we emerged in dinosaur-infested swamps, returned into the water, and then spun off out of control into the future. And it was a lot of fun. And we had particular fun because this is the age of the reptiles, and we had things like the pliosaur, which is pretty much the scariest creature of all time, sea creature, I think. And of course the dinosaurs, everyone's favorite. Just a gift, you know, the site offered us. But it barely scraped the surface of what we really wanted to do. And the other things that this coast contains is evidence of extinction, particularly the Triassic, Jurassic extinction event, and what happens to life after each of these events and how they're linked to global processes. Go to the next one, please, Richard. Yeah. So in the Triassic, our environment was influenced by the fact that we were in the middle of this supercontinent called Pangaea. It was fused together, and rather like being in the middle of the red continent of Australia today, we had deserts with lots of iron. And it was at the end of the Triassic that plate tectonics, the driving force being huge mantle plumes, hot concentrations of radioactive elements pumping magma up to the surface. This is what drives plate tectonics. And at the end of the Triassic, Pangaea started to break up. And as it broke up, we see massive volcanism as the mid-ocean ridge started to form. And that affected the climate through emissions of CO2 and dust and so on. So that life was reduced to 25% of the diversity that we have today. But the really great thing about the fossil record is it shows us that the animals that survive these extinctions explode in diversity. And this is the story right here at Lyme Regis. So those animals, they find themselves in new habitats and environments with very little competition, and you get this explosion of diversity. And that's kind of what the fossil record tells us. And it's linked to these big volcanic events. The first one in the start of the Triassic, forming the Siberian traps. The second, which is our best one, the opening of the Atlantic. And the final one, the end of the Cretaceous, the extinction of the dinosaurs, when 1.5 million cubic kilometers of lava was erupted to form the Deccan Plateau in India. So again, we can see evidence of animals being stressed by the result of this climate change caused by volcanism. The unusual thing about the KT extinction, of course, is that the Yucatan Peninsula meteorite that hit Mexico formed this sort of coup de grace, although geologists still argue. Some people believe it's just the meteorite, but it's evident that volcanic events also impact on evolution and extinctions. So what a fantastic record we've got there. And following that event, it was the mammals that came through and radiated through the Ice Age and ultimately to the pinnacle of evolution, which is ourselves. Of course, what else would it be? So extinctions, they tell us that they're the great driver for evolution. Extinctions are great, in fact. If it wasn't for extinction, we wouldn't be here. The only trouble is the fossil record tells us that it takes about 10 million years for life to recover, slightly beyond our timescales. And the big question today is, our burning of fossil fuels, is that beginning to have an equivalent effect to these enormous magmatic events? And I think the answer is pretty clear. If we look at petroleum alone, just the Witch Farm oil field, also in Dorset, under Poole Harbour, it's produced 400 million barrels of oil in its 40-year lifetime. And that would supply global demand for about 5 days. Now that oil, it took 10 million years to form, and it locked up the carbon dioxide in the under the ground for 200 million years. And when you think about that in a global perspective, I think there's no doubt that climate change is real, and we shouldn't even be having the debate about whether or not it is. It's here. And even things like planting trees, lovely idea, unless you can get that carbon back deep into the crust of the earth in the long term, it's not going to make a difference. So this time round, what we want to do is delve much more deeply into this really important story contained on the coast. Thank you very much, Richard, Belinda.
And now over to Belinda, who's going to talk to us about the present day.
Hi, I'm Belinda Borden. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah. A little quiet, Belinda.
Okay, I'll lean in. So I'm going to tell you about On Board's fantastic feedback and how our plans have evolved since the happy days of 2012. On Board won the Olympic Inspire Award for its ability to engage local communities, educate, entertain, and perhaps most importantly, inspire. The evaluation of 3,000 landing cards showed that people really remembered key facts and that we were able to engage hitherto hard to reach audiences. People who might usually run a mile from the notion of being educated or learning about heritage or climate issues were telling us that they really enjoyed the experience and would fly with us again. We attracted 120 volunteer aircrew and flew over 10,000 passengers in the 12-seat section of a Boeing 737 cabin simulator. There was hugely positive feedback from every age group, both about what they'd learned about the Jurassic Coast and climate change, but more importantly about what fun they'd had. An unexpected bonus was the volunteer enjoyment, camaraderie and personal growth. My 16-year-old daughter and students from my school visibly blossomed as their confidence in the subject matter grew and in dealing with members of the public. The working environment was relaxed yet highly professional, with attention to detail crucial to the authenticity and scientific integrity of the message. The team spirit was infectious, with both volunteers and passengers fully immersing themselves in the role-playing and occasional silliness. We had a huge amount of interest in taking this further after the Olympics, but because of the logistics of moving the large installation to places for short events, various options became impossible. We've also been trying to find a permanent site, and we got close to investment at the end of last year. About 4 years ago, we had begun looking at ways to create a more portable outreach version. If things had gone to plan, we would have brought you this, our prototype of a mobile simulator and pop-up airport, using the same principles, but including augmented and virtual reality. But here's the rub. Coronavirus had scuppered our plans and our funding, so we've been scratching our heads about how we build back better, to use the terminology of the moment. And the question is, has COVID taken people's eye off the ball about the climate and biodiversity crisis? Actually, recent research shows that people realise that the climate crisis is just as serious as COVID. So dare we risk business as usual? Or has our lockdown experience given us a glimpse of a different future? Many of us have enjoyed clear blue skies, bird songs, and clean air, whilst reconnecting with the natural world. But the reality is that despite global economic shutdowns, carbon emissions really haven't dropped all that much, and nothing like as much as we need to reach the Paris climate goals. The task is immense, but the COVID crisis has shown that sudden and drastic behaviour change is possible. People have cared for their neighbours and communities have bonded in very new ways. Many of us are resetting and rethinking our frenetic work-based, travel-based, consumer-hungry lifestyles. We understand the urgency and know that we can and must build back better. But do our political leaders? Imagine if greenhouse gas emissions and vertebrate extinctions were expressed as R numbers. We are actually in double jeopardy now, but what are our governments actually doing about it? Departures, our new game, will reflect our shocking losses in biodiversity. Time has moved on rapidly since 2012, even since last year. COVID has made us more aware than ever of the importance of our own health and well-being and how it is inextricably linked to the health of our planet. Climate chaos and biodiversity loss are accelerating faster than even the scientists predicted, but we do already have the solutions in our hands. David Attenborough's recent documentary sums this up. We're facing a man-made disaster on a global scale. The scientific evidence is that if we have not taken drastic action within the next decade, we could face irreversible damage to the natural world and the collapse of our societies. We're running out of time, but there is still hope. Public awareness of the need to change direction away from the relentless economic growth towards a more caring, compassionate and fairer society and economy is higher than ever. We aim to offer the hope Sir David expresses that we can and will prevent runaway climate chaos and irreversible biodiversity loss by showing we can make the changes we need. Richard will now explain how we intend to capture the spirit and fun of the original On Board with a new, more interactive online experience with the same scientific integrity and, crucially, plenty of practical solutions and visions of a cleaner, greener, safer and healthier future. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you very much, Belinda. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about our future plans. This is very much a work in progress. Jurassic Airways is so named because our brand is all about inspiration and exploration. We hope that by taking our evolution, extinction, inspiration, exploration, flight through time online, we can in fact engage a global audience. So in many ways, it's a benefit that we've started this work as a result of COVID. And we want to encourage everyone to understand the impacts of climate change to our health, which are inextricably linked to the health of our planet. We've created an app that integrates several interactive technologies into one package. And this is what it looks like. It's still in its infancy. We need some people to help us test this. And so if you can help, please drop your email in the chat to Belinda. And the address is up there if you want to contact us in any other way. The app uses 3 components, and basically you can either run it on your mobile phone, a tablet, or a PC screen, and they can be made to interact with each other. Our beta testers will be the first people to be able to book online their free holiday. So let's assume you've got your ticket and you're ready to start. This is how we're going to navigate through the airport. We're using some interesting technology that works like Street View. And you can see here, you can even book yourself a meal on the plane. And by asking some fun questions around food preferences, we aim to stimulate thought and interest in our connections to both the ancient world and modern day farming. For example, you couldn't order a salad on our Pangaean flight because flowering plants hadn't yet evolved. And if you chose chicken, we might need to offer you the next nearest alternative. So there'll be a lot of fun and learning opportunities and quizzes involved in this. So it's somewhere between a game and an online experience. So the next step is you book your ticket and you get on board the plane, and we deliver you to Terminal 6, or the Anthropocene as we call it. And in this corridor, you'll be able to interact with the advertising using our AR app. And you can find out things and earn air smiles, which you're going to exchange for upgrades and other benefits. So now you check in and we ask you to undertake the usual security questions that you can see on the left there. And then we take you onto the biosecurity area, which will put your phone into bioscan mode, selfie scan because of COVID. And that will transmit all your data to the screen that you can see just over here. And then onwards, we will go to, well, these guys take security very seriously. So when you see the smuggling fossil fuel through time is a prosecutable offence. And it's here you meet with trouble. You find that nearly all of us are carrying minute quantities of fossil fuel without us being aware of it. Nano-sized particles of plastics have entered the food chain. If you live in cities, you're actually inhaling these. So naturally, we're either going to have to arrest you for a false declaration or let you off with a caution. So you've passed security and you've reached the next level, the usual duty free. Things here are not what they first seem. Those lipsticks are bullets. And using augmented reality, we'll discover how rhinos have been hunted to extinction, for example. We'll be showcasing massive reductions, or rather the unfolding story of the Anthropocene. And on board, at our onboard airport, we proclaim that we owe a duty of care to our fellow creatures on this planet. By setting your app to augmented reality, you can shop till you So as you can see here, this is an actual real product called Lucky Tiger Vanishing Cream. Well, the tiger's hardly lucky because it's some of them have vanished. In 2003, the Caspian tiger went out of life completely. And if you've spent too much time having fun in this area, the following might happen.
This is the last call for passengers of flight JA2031. Please proceed to gate 7 immediately, or we will offload your baggage.
I think many of us have been there, I certainly have. And then you arrive eventually at the gate, and you then take your mobile phone and you put it into VR mode, which is something like this. Now these things are about $5 these days, so it's a very cheap way to get into VR, but we're also developing it for higher end apps such as Oculus Quest. And then we transport you to the back of the airline seat, and you will take part in a fully immersive view. You'll be able to see all around you, look out the windows and so forth on your journey en route to Pangaea. And that route will remind us how fragile our planet is before we touch down. So we'll fly through some pretty bad stuff on the way, I expect, some flooding and so forth. Some nasty forest fires, and eventually we will reach the amazing area of probably central Pangaea. And in here you'll be able to watch dinosaurs and do all of the things you could have done on the first flight. But of course, we need quite a lot of money to realize this to its full extent. And so we're starting crowdfunding to do that. On your way back from Pangaea International Airport, you will then come back into the immigration area, where we'll ask you a load of questions about what you discovered while you were down there and so forth, to allow you back into whatever airspace you started from. The key feature of this landing process is that we'll take you into an innovation gallery. It's a very futuristic and positive view of how we can change our lifestyles to deal with climate change and mitigate our own extinction. This video is of a real financial innovation center in Saudi, and we envisage something similar in our game, and also as a physical installation. This area could showcase, for example, concrete that absorbs CO2, a very new and potentially game-changing material. It could have energy-saving ideas, new food sources, or films on how to do your bit for a better generations to come, and so forth. So that's it really in a nutshell. And I'm going to now ask if you can lend us any help. So to put it all into a nutshell, it's a flight that won't cost the Earth. And we want people to help us by giving us feedback on these ideas, on our development. Any ideas they might have for the best way to promote it, who we could approach for funding, anyone you know with deep pockets. And we're seeking partners and volunteers to help us realize this vision, and to include the mobile and physical installation. We're a not-for-profit company. We're We'd like you to contact us with any suggestions after this thing. So please, if you've got any questions, we'd love to hear from you now.
Humour and engagement is a really effective way of drawing people in, as Richard said at the start, to things they wouldn't normally perhaps be interested in.
I'd also like to report some breaking news. Sir Gillian Prance, who used to be the director of Kew Gardens, he's retired now, has agreed to be the patron of our organisation. So he's going to help promote Jurassic Airways for us, which is really great news. He's a very esteemed man, and he's a very keen environmentalist, and he's an advisor to the Eden Project, for example. So it's great to have him on board. I'm really, really grateful for that.
Right, we do have a question from Catherine, who's put a hand up there, so I'm just going to unmute Catherine now.
Hi, it wasn't really a question, it was just a thumbs up on the patron. But I think Chris had a question. Had you approached any other environmental charities?
We have so far. We've been sending emails out to people, but it seems like everyone's sort of, I don't know, affected by COVID so much that they're not answering their emails at the moment. So we're going to start calling people very, very soon. We're working on that full tilt actually. So yeah, let's hope something happens soon. Thank you.
I was just going to add that I mean, Richard and his team have been, his tech guys and girls have been working really hard. So each time we rehearse this thing, Richard's always introducing new elements. So I think there's also a place to get to where there's enough material to really put over what it's about. And I think today is probably the first time that you've got there, Richard. I would say we're beginning to really illustrate what it can do.
Yeah, we're getting there slowly. We're hoping to make a proper promo film, and you saw some little clips from it as I went through the slides there. And hopefully once we've got it all together, we'll have a proper little promo film that we can send out to people to explain what it's all about. I think Eva would like to speak. Can we take her off? Ah, yes, hello.
Hi, hello. Not so much a question, but I'm just amazed by the detail and by the possibility I can see. It's so in the whole education sector, I could see that it's just amazing what you could do with that, and how much you could actually raise the awareness for this so important support and safe of the environment. And I was wondering whether you had any contact to universities or schools, and whether you approached them as well.
Yes, I worked with schools and universities on the first part, the 2012 installation, but we would like to get universities and educational establishments involved again, and certainly we'll be pursuing that. But you know, the main thing is get awareness of what we're trying to do, and this really is the first attempt at that. And get the thing out there, get the message out there, what we're trying to do.
And I think just in that situation with Corona, it's such a fantastic way. I mean, it's always great, and what you did before in Lyme, and that you actually can go into a space and so on. But in that situation where or a lot of people can't meet physically, it gives such a wonderful opportunity to learn about the project and to actually embark on it, even in that situation. And I think that's a great potential there.
Yes, we really want to. We're talking to quite a few other people that are hosting what are called pervasive environments, to see if we can situate some of our airports inside their environment, so that people can fly from us straight into these places where they can meet with other people, and actually talk face to face with their friends in VR.
Great.
So it'll open up a lot of possibilities.
Great, and please put me, Belinda has my email address, please put me on all information, and I'm very happy to spread the word.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate that, Eva. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, this is just the start. We've been working in background on and off for the last few years. It's been a problem to do it with our general work in the way, but with COVID, everything has changed. We've been working on flat out now for 6 months, rebuilding this program, making it sort of COVID proof. And we've got so many ideas, but so little money. We've been funding it ourselves up to this point, but you know, we're going to have to go out there and go for real big funding to make this happen. I think the will is there. I think businesses can help us. I mean, there's lots of advertising opportunities in this, and an airport is a very good environment for showing life in general. You know, you can go into duty-free shops and buy electronic goods. You can go into food outlets, and you can find out the issues between food and now food production and the environment, and all sorts of interesting things, and have a lot of fun too. That's what it's about, having fun. Even though it's a doomy, gloomy kind of prospect that we're all going to go extinct. Sorry, Belinda, did you want to say something?
Yeah, no, just going to say that we don't want to end on doom and gloom, because I think, you know, a lot of what we know that a lot of the solutions are already out there. So the point about landing and being able to go to the innovations gallery is that we can see actually there are a lot of incredibly good things going on. And, you know, sometimes it just needs joining the dots together, or providing more support, or a bigger market for some of the solutions that already exist. And yes, some of the political action that may still be necessary to, you know, push people that little bit further to say, you know, hey, yeah, we can do this. There's a lot of urban design in terms of blue-green spaces that can both improve our own health and enjoyment of our cities at the same time that they're managing and mitigating, you know, potential flood risk, let's say, from climate change. There are a lot of solutions out there, and that's really what we're hoping to do. Not depress people with a terrible future, but just say, hey, we can do this.
I think that Sir David Attenborough put it very succinctly in his latest film. He said that, you know, we could come out of COVID with a new idea to put our effort and, you know, change our economies, get the economy going again by getting people working on issues to put the planet straight, repair the planet. Basically, if we all did this, it would create jobs and we'd get to the goal that we want, because otherwise we're going to screw up the world for our grandchildren and so on. And as he said, I won't be here to see the results. It's up to you guys. Same for me.
Hi, everybody. I'm just delighted to take part in this fossil festival. I did fly Jurassic when I was in Lyme Regis in 2012, and it was just a wonderful experience. And hats off to my brother and your team for what you're doing. We're excited here in Canada. We're just going through our British Columbia elections at the moment, and the Green Party has won some more seats and is holding government accountable for some of the environmental issues that are going on. Here we have a lot of recognition of the fact that climate change is happening, and that we're losing species. There are a number of sites with fossils which are gaining attention, both in the northern BC area of Tumbler Ridge, and of course in Alberta with Drumheller and the Badlands of Alberta. So I think there's possibly an idea of getting some Jurassic Airways stops in some of these places. I think would be a great idea. But thank you all for the opportunity to take part in this today.
Yes, thanks everyone for coming along as well. It's great to see so many of you here. That's really lovely.